So this is Louis, and unfortunately I am quite tired. I got up at 3 o'clock this morning to go to work, so I'm quite tired at the moment. But nonetheless, there was a topic I had to talk about today, and I was actually going to criticize, I believe it is the Young Americans for Freedom, which is like a college organization similar to Turning Point USA with YAF. It's associated with Dennis D'Souza, Michael something, and one other person that I'm forgetting offhand. It's a lesser-known organization, but it's similar, as far as I know, to Turning Point. And it has similar problems. It has the kind of conservatism that I find to be ineffectual and just a waste of time, and that is Dennis D'Souza's style of the left are the real racists, Democrats are the real racists. So much for the tolerant left, which is what you hear still to this day, unironically, from conservatives. The criticism would be that just recently they had a video go viral, and I guess I'll just cover it here because I'm not going to cover it. What you had was some left-wing students crowd around and bully and intimidate and mess with some conservative students and activists on their campus, and they just stand there and take all of it. The issue is, ultimately, if the conservatives reacted aggressively in the same way that the leftists are, would they just be able to get away with it? And I'm sure that we all know the answer is no. They'd probably get, thrown off of campus. They'd be expelled in a second. But the left-wingers, they can do whatever the fuck they want. That's pretty much the state of college campuses. But the fact is that even when I was, still in college, and we're talking 5 years ago I was a senior, 7 years ago, 8 years ago when I was starting out in college, this was still true then. This is still going on then. And almost a decade later, nothing has changed. And I have to fault the right. You've known about this problem. You've been saying so much for the tolerant left. You've been being bullied and thrown off of college campuses for almost a decade now that I've seen directly. Anecdotally that I've seen. This is still going on. Nothing has changed. And you've controlled Congress at least a couple times in that span. And you've done nothing to change it. You getting bullied, you videotaping it is not accomplishing anything. You having Dennis D'Souza say the left are the real racists and so much for the tolerant left, whatever else, that's not accomplishing anything. So I do have critiques for the right. And once upon a time I was a leftist. And even then I would have said this, that your attacks on the left and the regressive left, the progressive left, they're not effective. They're not doing anything. They're not accomplishing anything. You turning the other cheek is a very Christian thing to do, but it's not accomplishing anything. It's just you being bullied and being a fucking pussy and taking it. And I can tell you, back when I was in high school and was in middle school and I was being bullied, the way that it stops is you fight back. And unfortunately, in the case of, with the Proud Boys in New York City, you might go to jail. You might go to prison in their case. Unfortunately, with the Trump administration, they're not really cutting much slack for right-wingers. The left wing, they can still engage in political violence. And I say this to Carl specifically, Sargon. The left can engage in violence and get away with it. The right cannot. They're not just prosecuted, they're persecuted by the state for even defending themselves. But in the case of the left, they can just get away with it. They're not prosecuted, they're not pursued. The cops just say, yo, hey, you kids, knock that off. Even when they're full-grown adults, curb stomping some right-winger into the ground, into the pavement. The cops just wave them off and they get away. But if it's a right-winger throwing a few punches, oh man, they're going to jail for 10 years. That's the difference. And I have to say that I'm not sympathetic to the idea that, fair is fair and the law is being implemented fairly. Fuck no, it isn't. That's bullshit, and it ain't just New York State. As far as I can tell, it's many state governments and it's the federal government. There is a specific bias, not necessarily against the right wing, but in favor of the left. Their political violence is tolerated. 5 years out from when I've graduated, it's still a problem. It's now into a whole new generation that it's continued to be a problem. Turn the other cheek, saying so much for the tolerant left, and videotaping the left wing as they curb stomp you is not accomplishing anything. I don't know what to say other than this is weak shit. And this is not how you garner popularity. This is not how you show strength. It's you showing weakness and advertising it to the world. Everyone knows that there's left-wing mobs bullying people. It's just people lying about it, lying by omission. Just recently, you had Dennis Prager on Bill Maher talking about the big lies of the left in overtime on his show, and he brought up the issue of transgenderism, and everyone in the studio, everyone laughed, everyone on the panel, Bill Maher, everyone in the audience just laughed in Dennis Prager's face. And he had to sit there, even though he's right. He knows he's right. And he's being humiliated in public. Everyone in the world is laughing at him. Oh, gender politics on the left. He thinks that is a real phenomenon. He has to submit himself to be publicly humiliated and try to put on a brave face in that. And him being an old activist for the right, I'm sure he's used to it, and it's water off a duck's ass, and it doesn't matter to him. But everyone in that audience knows what's going on. Because right after he says that and everyone laughs at him, Bill Maher accidentally misgenders someone and then instantly corrects himself. Hey, Bill, why did you do that? Why did you suddenly stutter, like visibly stutter, and then correct yourself instantly? Why did you do that, Bill? It begs a certain question. Why did you react? Like physically react to you misgendering? Why is that, Bill? So yeah, it's a matter of everyone knows what the deal is. Everyone knows what's going on here. But it's just people choosing to lie and cover up for the insanity that is the left. I'm no longer a leftist. If you check my Twitter profile, it says former leftist now. I'm no longer a leftist. I'm on the right. Because at this point, to me, there's really no other place to be. But I have my criticisms of the right. I do. And even with Dennis Prager, who I think is a genuine philosophical conservative, he's still another, he's a more scholarly Jewish person. Like, he taught Jewish studies in New York City or whatever. He's still, Israel needs my protection, blah, blah, blah kind of guy, when it's like, it's still a foreign nation, dude. Come on. Like, this is an elephant in the room, and it's inappropriate. And do you hold both nations to the same standard? I mean, you're giving ground to the alt-right. You're giving them air when you leave this open. And again, Dennis Prager is at least someone that I think is genuinely in favor of the United States. Like, going out in front of a hostile audience and with conviction saying that America is a good nation. It is an inherently good nation. It's not an inherently evil nation. And I'll play a quick clip of that.
I'll give you gigantic lies that the United States is a racist country. This is a lie. This is a gargantuan lie. This is the least racist, multicultural, multi-ethnic country in the history of the world. No,
we're better than the Japanese.
No, we're better than everyone.
Hopefully I, don't get fucking hit by HBO because their algorithm shit is ridiculous. I just want to show you that because from what I've seen with Dennis Prager, he's not Ben Shapiro. Like, this guy actually does have convictions. And with, I really don't want to denigrate people, but with Steven Crowder and Ben Shapiro, I find myself questioning exactly what they believe and how, I question their conservative bona fides, because it's like, I'm not even a conservative, and you sound more of like a ridiculous utopian philosophical liberal than I do. Like the video I just covered recently where fucking Crowder is off on a rant about immigration. And it's like, you sound like more of a radical liberal than I do. Like, I'm supposed to be the liberal, you're supposed to be the conservative. What exactly are you conserving? That's the eternal question that many conservatives have, is what are the conservatives actually conserving? And so with someone like Dennis Prager, I give him the benefit of the doubt, but others I don't, because it seems as though that it's what's going on with Charlie Kirk now, where he has basically recently said that I'm wrong about immigration and, I'm actually, in favor of eliminating immigration, but he's still being kind of deceptive about it. There's questions and criticism that the right can still put on the right, and it actually hold true. And one of the things they're going on and on about the alt-right and Nick Fuentes and all this and white nationalists and paleo-conservatives and whatnot. If the criticism is true, then it's true. You can label people what you want to. If what they're saying is true, you have to address it. Simple as the British would say. But is that really the purpose of this commentary? No, it's not actually. The point of this commentary is, once again, I'm setting up everything, putting everything together, grabbing clips, doing what I need to criticize the right. You know, as someone who is on the right, but is not a conservative, I am still a liberal. It's just a matter of I'm an actual liberal. I'm not the liberal who's like, yeah, we need to usher in socialism and bring on the nationalization of everything. I'm not that kind of liberal. I'm the kind that actually wants people to be free. And so I should be the one arguing with conservatives. Oh, you conservatives wanting to restrict things. Oh, you conservatives with your traditionalism. Well, what about my idealism? What about my utopian bullshit? Don't you want to hear that, conservatives? Yeah, let's argue this out. It can't be that. I'm sitting here and I'm saying, all right, time to criticize the conservatives, and here comes the LGBT movement again.
The fuck is wrong with you? Does everything with you have to be a fucking test?
How old are they?
Oh man, are they gonna have some crazy fucking advertisement sponsored by Coca-Cola, funded by Coca-Cola, an American company that, you know, once again, they're working with the socialists, as they once did in the 30s, to sell some crazy shit and drive me absolutely crazy, to where it's like, all I want to do is criticize the right, and yet you show up and you test me. And so we'll go straight into it. I'll just play this ad for you. And you let me know. You let me know if I'm exaggerating. If you don't see the reason why that I have turned to the right. Like, this to me is the reason. Like, this and a few other things is what is pushing me to the right. Say whatever you want to about, you know, cynical politics and, oh, this will help us win elections and shit, but from, you know, a cynical perspective on the right. But it's like this kind of thing actively scares me. It's like, again, I don't want to scream, but it's just a matter of the glass top ready to spin off the table and shatter. You know, that representing society. So I'm going to stop in the first few seconds. What is this fucking creepy look? Because this is supposed to be the guy's mother, okay? This is supposed to be this kid's mother. What the fuck is this look? I have never looked deep into the eyes of my mother face to face as she puts makeup on me. This is incredibly creepy. And we are like 8 seconds into the fucking commercial. And again, this is a commercial by Coca-Cola for Sprite. In Spain. I mean, I'm sorry, maybe this is just a tradition in Spain that you look longingly into the eyes of your mother, like very close to each other, as she puts makeup on you. Just a difference in cultural norms, I suppose.
Through a storm, hold your head up high, and
she is binding her child, her daughter's chest, who is now post-pubescent, but in a way so that as she grows, as she ages, she will have smaller breasts or deformed breasts that are close to her chest rather than them expanding out in whatever fashion. Immediately from a health perspective, like, this is not healthy. I mean, any kind of compression such as this is not healthy. Like, actively deforming your body has health consequences. At a young age, when your body's still developing, you manipulating your body in certain ways results in permanent damage. And chest binding, as far as I'm aware, does have permanent health ramifications because this is actively deforming your body, not just your breasts, but your chest cavity. The idea that you should be promoting this is just incredible. Because again, like, Are we not wrapping all of our kids in bubble wrap? Oh, your kid can't play football because of concussions. Your daughter can't take ballet because it's going to physically deform her feet and damage her feet permanently. Or whatever else, you know. Are we overly concerned helicopter parents, or are we actively, you know, pursuing our kids to be a member of the Big 40? Like, what the
You're what? God damn it, are you fucking with me?
Can anyone explain this to me? Can someone just explain this to me? Because, as far as I can tell, this is completely nonsensical. And I just have to say that I'm no health expert here. I'm no biologist or doctor. My specialty is not in medicine, but as far as I know, it's not healthy to deform your body. Because, like I say, your breasts are on top of your ribs. Compressing them compresses your organs inside your chest cavity. This is probably not good to do for a child. And why the fuck are you fucking putting a half-naked, if this isn't an underage actress or actor, I don't even know what the fucking gender of this kid is. Is this an actual child actor? If it is, I mean, that raises a whole new level of why is there a half-naked kid advertising Sprite? What the fuck?
Be afraid of the dark.
So, immediately at first, I was like, okay, it's grandma and it's the grandson. As weird as this is, okay, fine. Just by itself, let's just be, let's just be absurd and say that this is perfectly fine, whatever. It's still creepy as fuck, but let's just say that this is fine, okay?
At the end of a story.
Grandma is now strapping grandson into a skimpy one piece. And once again, I have to go back to the original scene of mom looking longingly into the eyes of her son. This is degenerate. This is unbelievable. Like, I can just feel my political the needle on the political compass screaming to the right, because it's like I'm sitting here and like I'm the former leftist just trying to scream at the top of my lungs.
We have to go back!
Douglas Murray wrote an article on drag kids just recently from this month, and I'll point you to this article to go read. And to summarize it all the way at the end, I'll say that he says, drag children are not the way to break down the instinctive conservatism of the American public. They are the best imaginable way to make any such conservatism rear up again, in the knowledge that this time there is something serious not just to oppose, but to defend. And he says this not in the sense of cynical politics, like, hurrah, hurrah, this is going to bring back the right. Like, it's basically the idea of you don't know what form this is going to come back in. Like, if you actually want to give the alt-right the freedom to basically come out of the ether and take over, this is the way to do it. Because I'm not joking around when I say that this is the kind of shit that pushes me to the right. Because I am in no way defending this. I actively want to see this conquered. I don't give a shit, like again, like this bake the cake kind of shit of LGBT activism. I went from defending discrimination laws to opposing discrimination laws because of LGBT activism in the courts. bullying Christians. It forced me to question the principle of compelling someone to basically, it's not just the free speech of my cake, I'm going to design my cake, and somehow that's freedom of speech, even though it should be expressed in blah, blah, blah. Apparently, expression counts sometimes on the right and sometimes not. Go figure with our court system. But the issue is forced labor and whether that's moral or not. And in the sense of discrimination law, I don't think it is. I think that you as a business owner, in terms of your own personal labor, you should have the right, and especially from the position of the left and classism, like you should have the right to refuse service if you are a sole proprietor. If you're the one enacting the labor, it's you doing the labor, you should absolutely have the right to refuse service. Compelled labor, it comes across as Darwinist.
Look, I'm a Darwinist, brother, all right? Some prosper and some struggle.
A.G. Barr, Attorney General William Barr, just did a speech, and maybe I'll grab a clip of that, as an explanation of what's going on here.
The fact of the matter is that in waging a scorched earth, no-holds-barred war of resistance against this administration, it is the left that is engaged in the systematic shredding of norms and undermining the rule of law. This highlights a basic disadvantage that conservatives have had in contesting the political issues of the day. It goes back to the beginning of the Republic. It was adverted to by that old curmudgeonly federalist, Fisher Ames, in several of his essays during the early Republic, and I paraphrase. In any age, the so-called progressives treat politics as a religion. Their holy mission is to use the coercive power of the state to remake man and society in their own image according to an abstract ideal of perfection. Whatever means they use are therefore justified because, by definition, they are virtuous people pursuing a deific end. They are willing to use any means necessary to gain momentary advantage in achieving their end, regardless of the collateral consequences and the systemic implications. They never ask whether the action they take could be justified as a general rule of conduct equally applicable to all sides. What would we think if the shoe were on the other foot? And yet we hear them irresponsibly tabling proposals to do away with the Electoral College or to pack the courts. Who's shredding constitutional norms? Conservatives, on the other hand, do not seek an earthly paradise. We are interested in preserving over the long run the proper balance of freedom and order necessary for the healthy development of natural civil society and individual human flourishing. And this means that we naturally test the propriety and wisdom of action under a rule of law standard. The essence of that standard is to ask what the overall impact on society over the long, what will be the impact on society over the long run if the action we are taking or the principle we are applying in a given circumstance was universalized. That is, would it be good for society as a whole over the long run if this was done in all like circumstances? That's what rule of law is about, and that is inherent in the conservative project.
There. It's an eloquent way of saying what's going on here. You guys are enacting a scorched earth policy that is resulting in people like me going from the left, a Bernie supporter, someone who voted once upon a time for Jill Stein, to where I am now, where, you know, not just me as a former Democrat, but my mother, for example, you know, voted Democrat her entire life. She's now voting for Trump. Like, you explain it. Like, my thing to you is, I know that you always want to be pure and right, but unfortunately, you got to win certain elections if you still want to exist. And I'm telling you actively that this shit is what is pushing people to the right. This is what is having people like my mother, boomers, who from, you know, whenever it was she was able to vote, like the early 70s, all the way to now, voting Democrat, just down ballot for that her entire life, marrying a union electrician. And my father, unfortunately, is kind of blue-pilled. But my mother is very much red-pilled. And she's voting Trump next time. That's one more vote against you. I'm not sitting here as someone going, rah, rah, red team, fuck you, blue team. I'm trying to explain to you that if you actually fear the alt-right, if you actually think that the alt-right is a big, bad, spooky, scary boogeyman that you need to be afraid of and we should all be afraid of, you're the one that's actively giving it the green light to come back. Because, I'm sorry, this is the kind of shit that raises the hairs on the back of necks of normal fucking people. You're the abnormal ones. You're the deviants. I'm Mr. fucking King of Lowly Hill. Guy who's going to be forever called a fucking pedophile by my detractors for raising a credible issue of subjective laws and unenforceable laws and defending free speech and the expression of artists for what could be offensive material, but is otherwise innocuous, and you have no proof otherwise. I'm always going to be labeled a pedophile for that. And yet I am actively telling you that you're the one with a deviant mind if you think this is fucking normal. You're the one that is actively promoting something that's harmful, physically harmful for children. It's demonstrable. Binding your body, deforming your body is not fucking healthy. On top of the health concern, the issue in and of itself of what kind of lifestyle this is promoting, on top of that is the familiar. It's the fact that you have to make this intimate to the family. And again, like, I'm not the conservative, and yet you force me to sit here and say that I find this to be fucking immoral, that you have the family encouraging this kind of shit, actively participating in this. When, again, the huge controversy around the issue of transgenderism, like, if that's what we're going to make this specific to, with this advertisement, it's not specific to that. This could be either cross-dressing, like, this outfit is a fetish outfit. This is a fetish. This is not you dressing as a girl. This is you wearing a one-piece fetish outfit, a skimpy revealing outfit with, like, I think she's wearing, like, nylons as well. I can barely tell. You have a grandmother assisting her grandson or son, whatever, in wearing a fetish one-piece with a nylon wig. Okay, this is something that should be taboo. Like, this should be some sort of, like, I mean, even if I saw this in some kind of hentai, this would be gross. But this is, like, sick, taboo, fetish shit. This is gross. This is immoral. And I'm not the conservative. If I'm the conservative screeching about the family from my pulpit in church, like, you're actively turning me into a fucking Catholic again. Like, you are reconverting me to fucking Catholicism. One video at a time. This is gross. And if you're on the left, this is the kind of shit that you need to denounce. This is the line you need to draw. This is disgusting. But meanwhile, who's it being brought by? Is it some random porn site? Is it Pornhub? Is it the Bang Bros? This is Coca-Cola! Coca-Cola! is funding this ad? What the Explain this shit.
There's a golden sky.
Just the optics. The optics of this. Like, do you actually think that this is winning anyone over to your side? Like, this is gross. I swear to fucking God, dude. Am I alone? Am I alone in this? Am I alone just to say that I find the optics of this to be utter, like, why must you force this on children? Why must you force this on children? Because it seemingly for you is pathological. You believe that what you're doing is inherently morally right, and so you do it. Why are you doing this? Just explain it to me. Why are you forcing sexuality on children? Again, like, I am not the conservative, and yet I feel just the internal pressure to just say that this to me is disgusting. What I like is the last part of this, where you have like the dead stare of the father watching his gay son with his boyfriend off to a pride parade. The way to make effective gay propaganda is to make it as traditional as possible. That is the way to make effective propaganda. To show it as just the slightest deviation from the norm. And so when you have conservatives saying that, you know, this is going to lead to bestiality, this is going to lead to child, pedophilia, or, you know, being predatory towards children or forcing sex on children, you look ridiculous. Because they can say, hey, look at this effective propaganda. It's just a slight deviation from the norm. You are actively creating propaganda for the other side. Because what you're showing is that, no, they can't be a slight deviation. Like, you can't be gay and also an otherwise traditional guy or girl in an otherwise traditional relationship that is only a slight deviation from the norm of just being the opposite sex, or the same sex rather, and you can't also be an individualist, because gay pride is a collectivist identity celebration, a characteristic about yourself that is inherent, that you can't get rid of, unless you're a social constructivist, and then whatever. Then everything is fluid and everything's a social construct, therefore there's nothing wrong with gay conversion therapy, because that is in fact what it also argues. Go figure with the left, it depends on the fucking day. But if you believe that being gay or trans is inherent, that it is a characteristic you can't get rid of, then you need to not make it a collectivist identity. And I'm not just saying collective identity, I'm saying collectivist identity, meaning it is something separate. It's something separate from the norm. And that's what you're arguing it is. Your dad, with his dead-ass stare, dropping you off at a gay pride parade, that's you being a deviant. That's you being something other than the norm. It's not a celebration of the multiculturalism of America. Bullshit. It's you celebrating being separate from the norm. You not being normal. You being abnormal. That is what you're celebrating. Because the fact is that now that you have equal rights, legally speaking, you are equal. And there's no reason to fly the flag outside of you bullying Christians or you trying to celebrate hegemony, power over others. That, to me, is what a lot of this is reinforcing cultural norms that you have control over. I mean, for fuck's sake, Coca-Cola is one of the largest corporations on the planet, and they're actively promoting your cause. They're not fucking promoting my cause. I can tell you that. They're promoting your cause. And in effect, they're making propaganda for you that's so beyond the pale that it makes me actively want to boycott them and pushes me, to parroting the lines of actual conservatives, philosophically speaking, I mean, and, not liking the bastardization of the family for, like, weird taboo fetish shit, the normalization of that. Like I said, like, this is the kind of shit that would be weird to see even in hentai. Like, this is fucking weird. This is gross. And, the fact that Coca-Cola as a company is actively endorsing this, sponsoring it, funding it, and is saying that this is something healthy is bizarre to me. Again, clown world, honk honk. It's not even 2020, and here we are. You got to recognize that as terrible as the right is, and as little as they can possibly do. I mean, they controlled Congress and the White House, what was it, a couple years ago? Not even? They didn't do shit. Had the House, had the Senate, had the White House, all the time in the world at that point to just pass everything they ever could have wanted. Anything to combat any of this. Anything. Didn't do anything. Didn't pass anything. That's why I have my problems with a decent portion of the right, probably Dennis Prager included and everybody. You complain. You're not willing to do anything. You're not willing to pass anything. You're not willing to do anything to combat any of this. Like, there's a lot that you can do that would be underhanded, that could be arguably evil, but could be tactically done, that could put a win on the board for your side. A lot you could do to combat some of this shit, and yet you do none of it. Again, you can say, why, Louis, are you talking about this Spanish advertisement? It's from an American company. This is being funded by an American company. It may be international, transnational, because it's such a large company. This is still an American company greenlighting this kind of advertisement. If you don't think it translates as well to the United States in terms of the internal corporate bias, you're crazy. June 26, 2015. Again, off the cuff, I remember the date. No prompting, no even thought, just reflexive, I know the fucking date of the American Supreme Court decision. And ever since then, the activism, the cultural hegemony, the bullying, legalistic nonsense, it's only gotten worse. So much of what was criticized about this kind of left-wing activism, the LGBT activism, like, it has only gotten so much worse since then, to where they keep going to the Supreme Court on so many different cases revolving around this kind of shit over and over and over and over. It's like they, after this decision from the Supreme Court, realized that they had taken a chunk out of the right, that they had given a serious defeat to the social conservatives, so it just gave them that much more confidence to just go ahead. And they have some of the largest, richest, and most powerful corporations on the face of this earth actively promoting their cause. It's incredible. Imagine telling a conservative in like the 1980s that this is what all this was leading to. Imagine telling a conservative where we would be at this point in 2019, on our way to the clown world decade, where you have Coca-Cola actively promoting chest binding for little girls. For girls that are just gotten past, are now no longer prepubescent, have gone past puberty. And we're talking about chest binding in the name of gay pride. Just imagine. This is sick. This is unbelievable to me. I don't think physically deforming yourself is a good thing. I don't think promoting it is a good thing. I think Coca-Cola should be punished for this kind of ad because it's promoting a destructive lifestyle. And it's on children. Like, I'm sorry, like, we can have this conversation about adults, but that's not the context. The context of this is children. And families. Their parents. Like, this is gross. And, again, like, I could make effective LGB advertisements. I could make them. Hire me and I'll make them. I'll make very effective advertisements. And the way that you do it is, like I say already, tradition, just a slight deviation from it. But also, have white men, have white women, have black men, have black women. Don't have every relationship be interracial. Just don't do all of the virtue signal bullshit. Again, slight deviation from the norm. Don't have mental illness haircuts. Don't have them dressed like fucking weirdos in fetish outfits. Just have them be a slight deviation from the norm. And that is effective propaganda. This is not. And it's why in the past I've declared myself to be the Pope of lesbianism. Because I think that you need to put out whatever the Catholic equivalent of a fatwa would be, doctrine, whatever it would be. It's been a while. Put out some kind of mandate where certain things need to be enforced socially. Examples. Kids show up in fetish outfits. Someone comes up who's an activist and says, get out of here. Go home. Change this kid's outfit. Get off the street. Or push the cameras away and tell them, listen, we understand that you want to celebrate whatever. Go dress your kid normally. Get the fuck out of here. Some freak shows up with a shaved head and is wearing, is going around topless and whatnot. And is wearing like a G-string or a fucking thong. And that's it. Go up to him. Throw a towel around him. Go home. Get dressed. Put a fucking wig on. Get out of here. Stop acting like degenerates. Stop acting like deviants and freaks. Start being normal. Some LGBT activist organization sues a Christian baker and is trying to force them to do labor and is going to go to the Supreme Court for the umpteenth time. Time immemorial, we're bullying another Christian to force them to provide a service to us. Go up to them. Say that we'll actively sue you. We'll actively go after your funders. We'll bully you. We'll target you. Stop it. Like, you need some kind of counteracting force to draw the line in the sand. You need some kind of pope, some kind of authority to tell you to stop. Without that authority, without the voice in the room to tell you to stop, you have normalized deviant behavior, you've normalized taboo behavior, you're actively having Coca-Cola sponsor shit that grosses me out, and I have played some sick visual novels, and this is grossing me out. This is taboo shit. You need some kind of voice to lay down the law and tell you what is normal and what is acceptable and what isn't. And any time you get into the realm of children, it's not acceptable. This is not acceptable. If it's not acceptable for Christians to do conversion therapy on children and to kidnap them and do all kinds of crazy shit, if that's not acceptable because, oh my God, my children, then what the fuck is this? What is this shit? What is you and drag kids? What is this? This is disgusting. This is sick. This is unhealthy. This is unacceptable, both morally, ethically, okay, and socially. This is unacceptable. And so you need to stop. Name me to a board. I'll work for some fucking NGO. Put me at the head of some kind of activist organization, and I'll put out the fatwa. I'll put out the mandate. I'll put out the doctrine of what is acceptable and what is not. And it's going to be in clear terms. Drag for gay men, gone. no longer socially acceptable. You can do it underground. You can do it in some cabaret in New York City. No sponsorships. No official recognition. Drag is done if I'm the Pope. Gone. I've heard people defend it. No. No tolerance. Zero tolerance. No freaks. No weirdos. No pedophiles. Done. The only way this stops is if a proper authority has the authority, the recognized authority, and the ability to say no mas, Spaniards, no more. Done. Over with. Not acceptable. Not the norm. And from that, what is derived from, what is derivative of drag is drag kids. And that is even a step above. Not normal, horrible, should not be accepted, and yet today is actively promoted by the mainstream. Actively promoted by the mainstream. So I have to go have dinner with my family. I have to go be a normal, functioning human being and have a meal with my family. So I have to go. And I'll just leave it there for you to think about and to reflect on what I have to say. Thanks for listening.